Welcome, thank you very much for coming today. The reason why I've called this media conference is that I am announcing today that I'll be standing for the seat of Lockyer in the Queensland state elections yet to be announced for next year. My connection with the seat of Lockyer goes back to my great-grandparents who lived virtually nearly in this area between Forest Hill and Laidley. My grandmother was born here in 1888. My great-grandparents had a farming property, imported Clydesdales to the area to work the farm. So I have a strong connection to the farm. The thing is that my great-grandparents had to leave the property because my great-grandfather had a serious accident on the farm and couldn't rely on his 5 sons. Well, not a matter of relying on them, the fact is that his 5 sons were away fighting in World War I. So he had to sell the farm and he moved down to Brisbane with his family. Why I have called also this area to stand for the seat of Lockyer is because it's a great farming area. 90% of the produce out of this area, Lockyer Valley, goes to every major city in Australia, every capital city in Australia, bar Perth. 90% of its produce is exported from this area. Farming is very important to me and always has been. Going back to my first time in Parliament, where I stood up against the deregulation of the dairy industry. I fought for the orange growers, the pork producers, and any other farming industry that I thought was getting not a fair go by our Australian government. Even to this day, I feel the same. Our farmers are not looked after. They're in dire straits. If it is not our government red and green tape shutting them down, it is the banks or the imports. It is about time we start to realise, and especially people in the cities, if we do not support our farmers, we will be a nation that will not be able to feed ourselves and will only rely on imports from overseas. Water is also a very important issue, which I've been speaking about for many years as well. The push towards privatisation of our water. Farmers are denied the right to access the water and are not encouraged to put more dams onto their properties. I believe that they should be encouraged and assisted, financial assistance, to actually put more dams onto the properties. We all know that we are a nation of times that we go through many years of drought. It is too late for the government to provide monies to the farming families when their cattle and their sheep and their livestock are dying through lack of feed and lack of water. And yet our government feels it is only just good enough to support the family with approximately $900 a fortnight. That doesn't feed the livestock. And then we have bank foreclosures on properties. Coal seam gas has also been a great concern for many Australians. Coal seam gas may look good on paper for the monies it will bring into the country, but does it? Or are we allowing international companies to come out and just destroy our country, make millions and millions of dollars out of it, and yet we see the profits leaving Australia? There is no guarantee from anyone that it is a safe and what I can say is a safe way of extracting gas. It has implications on our water resources, and it has been reported that it can drop the water table by 105 metres in some areas and further west up to 700 metres, and it could actually contaminate our Great Artesian bore. I will not support coal seam gas in areas, and I do not believe the Queensland government has the right to go on anyone's property and allowing mining companies to extract gas from them. This area also, I don't believe, has had the representation that it deserves from Ian Ricketts. He's held the seat for 10 years and he's considered to be a safe national seat. Oh, I know I'm going to have a fight on my hands to win this seat, but I'm prepared to go in there with all guns blazing, because people in this electorate deserve the right to be heard. And I will raise the issues and I will stand up. But when you become part of a political party like the Nationals and you're considered a safe seat, why would you want to do anything? So it's about time that it was put in the hands of someone who's prepared to work extremely hard for this electorate, be a voice for the people, and raise the issues that you will not find any National Party member raising, or Labor for that matter, or the Greens. So I think our Parliament needs a breath of fresh air through it, and I hope that I'm going to be that person, and I will not take the people of this electorate for granted. I consider it to be an honour and a privilege to be a representative for the people, for the trust that they would put in me by casting their vote for me. Thank you.
Pauline, do you live in the electorate?
I live 8 kilometres from the boundary of the electorate. If it's any concern where I put my head down at night, well, that's a real worry.
Will you be moving into the electorate?
No, I'm not moving from my property. Like I said, it's 8 kilometres from the boundary, and the thing is that everyone goes to the floor of Parliament, everyone has a say in the electorate. I do shopping in this electorate, and it's very important that they know they have a representative in me. Like I said, where I put my head down at night, I don't think it's any concern of anyone's.
Is there a reason why you didn't run in Beaudesert?
I think my connection with this area, and actually this is going to be a harder seat to win, because Ian Ricketts won it on 52% of the primary vote last time. So it is going to be a fight for me to win the seat, but I'm prepared to take on Ian Ricketts and the National Party and the Labor Party and anyone else who wants to stand here, because I believe that I will be the best candidate to be a voice for the people. At this stage, please let me introduce Lester to you, and it's Lester's property that we are now standing on. Now, Lester was a farmer. He had small produce here, lettuce and different things growing here on the property. Although he's retired now, but it was because of government red tape and green tape that has forced Lester, please correct me, forced Lester from not farming any longer. It's not viable for them. And I've spoken to other farmers here, and that is a crying shame, because now we have other families and youth who would dearly love to stay on the farm, but they can't because it's not viable for them. And this is where we need to rethink the produce that we're bringing in from overseas countries instead of supporting our own farmers in Australia. So, have you got anything to add to that?
No, you've hit the nail on the head there, I think, Pauline. I found that through the years, we've been here 35 years.
Just come up a bit closer.
We've been here 35 years now, and I've found through the years, every time you jump a hurdle, they put another one in front of you that's a little bit higher. And after a period of time, and as you get older, you just get sick and tired of all the red tape and all the garbage that they go through to produce a bit of produce that you're probably not going to make much money out of in any case, so you just walk away from it. And that's what we've done here.
Yeah.
We've walked away from it.
And can I ask, what's your view of what Pauline made reference to the sitting member? What's your view of how well he stood up for the issues that matter to people like yourself who are coming to
He's done nothing for us. Absolutely nothing. Like he's very courteous and all that sort of thing, but that's, so's my neighbour.
People want a representative. People want they want people who's going to speak out on their behalf. Forget about political correctness, forget about all this BS that goes on in our parliaments. They want clear, honest, direct leadership. They want people who's going to speak up for them. They don't want to hear the lies anymore. They don't want to hear beating around the bush. People are struggling. They're living from day to day, and this is why they've had enough. They say, why don't the politicians see this? Why can't they see what's happening to us? All they see is the politicians with their snouts in the trough, They're getting all their lurks and perks, and they're telling the public, pull your belts in tighter. Well, people can't. I got an email from a woman last night over the coal seam gas. Actually, it was this morning because I responded to an email to her myself last night. And she said, thank you for responding to my email, Pauline. She said, we are no longer on our property. We had to walk away from it. And she said it's cost us $70,000 because of coal seam gas on the back of our property, which has caused health problems and destroyed our water. She said, now we're living, 6 of us, in a two-bedroom house with nothing, no money. So that's what I'm saying. People don't know who to go to, no one's prepared to listen to them or understand. We have to get past this country of looking after foreign investors who are purely after their greed and what money they can rake out of this country, regardless of how the people feel and how it affects the people. I'm fighting for the Australian culture, the Australian way of life, and a decent standard of living. That's what I'm standing for. And what I'm going to stand for is take back our country. That's what my slogan is. Take back our country.
Immigration policy has been a feature of your previous election campaigns. Is that going to be the same this year?
Immigration is federal issue, so it's not a state issue, so I won't be commenting on that.
When you first got into federal parliament, at that time there were a lot of people obviously disgruntled with the mainstream parties.
Yep.
Do you think the time suits you now as well, because there are so many people who are unhappy?
Most definitely. People saw me as a firebrand when I first came in, and my God, she's saying what I'm thinking. But I was shut down also because of political correctness, but also I was shut down by the major political parties. The support was there. The support is still there, and I feel it is bubbling away because people are realising now that what I said years ago, and I spoke about water then, I spoke about the farming, these things have actually eventuated and are happening in our country throughout Australia. So people don't know who else to turn to, and they're wanting someone to, like one of them, to speak up, be honest, be truthful, and say it the way that it is.
A few weeks ago when you started coming to a few events in the Lockyer, we went around and talked to people on the street about what they would think if you did run for this seat. And a couple of people were a bit concerned about your previous views on multiculturalism, considering that this area is very multicultural. What would you say to those people today?
In this area, my grandparents migrated out from Ireland. They actually made a home for themselves in Australia, and they assimilated and they became Australians, and we're proud here, and the generations have gone on since then. Multiculturalism is dividing us as a nation into different cultures. We are multiracial, but we must all be Australians. And that all I ask is these people give their loyalty to Australia, their undivided loyalty. Assimilate, join us, speak the language, and obey the rules and everything that this beautiful nation has to offer. I cannot put it any more plainly than that. And if I may refer to John Howard, just recently in this last month, he made a comment that multiculturalism has not worked. We are multiracial. He said exactly the same words that I said in 1996. Party.
What are your views?
I'm absolutely distraught about what happened yesterday and the loss of lives with those two innocent people, and one, a woman with her children now without a mother. It is, I believe that, and I would like to see an action being taken a lot sooner than it had, rather than letting it go on for the number of hours that it did, and deaths to occur before he was brought to an end, the siege was brought to an end. I blame both the Liberal and the Labor Party as well for it, because they, and our judicial system, because this man was known, he should have been kept in custody, and that was not the case. And whoever comes to Australia as a refugee must be thoroughly investigated their background before they're allowed into the Australian community. And again, I will criticise the Greens, and especially Sarah Hanson-Young, for her comments about refugees, and I think we need to be more stringent and make sure that these circumstances never happen in Australia again. Any Australian life lost is devastating to each and every one of us, because the next person could be a close relative of ours or a friend.
When you say they shouldn't have let things go on for so long, I mean, what do you think should have happened? What should they have done?
They should have taken them out. They had a clear view through the window. Anyone who threatens Australian life in that circumstance, and they had a clear view, the sniper. And let me remind you also, Australia was put on high alert only recently. They were warned about a threat against the public at Martin Place. This all took place there. So I believe that if anyone is going to hold Australians as hostages in circumstances like that, must realise the fact that they could lose their life.
But surely you must concede that the police and military are better qualified to make decisions about these sorts of things than yourself.
That's exactly right. I'm not in charge, I'm not in control there, mate. So my opinions are irrelevant. So it was up to the Prime Minister. And if his message was that everyone goes about their business as if, you know, nothing's happening, Australians are in fear, have no doubt about it. This is unprecedented, this type of thing in Australia. There has been another hostage take, but Australians are very concerned.
How dissatisfied do you think the people of Lockyer are with the LNP at the moment?
How?
Dissatisfied.
Well, actually, I've only announced it today, so I think that it's up to you. Go and talk to the people. You've heard Lester's opinion. There's another couple of locals behind you, if you want to get their opinion.
You wouldn't be running here if you didn't think you could do well there, would you? And it was held by One Nation 10 years ago.
It was. One Nation won it in 2001 and again in 1998 and 2001. So we held the seat twice. Like I said, it's considered a safe seat by the National Party. So be assured, I don't feel that I'm just going to walk in and it's going to land in my lap. I'm going to have to work for this electorate, and I'm going to have to prove to the people that I will be the best representative for them on the floor of Parliament, and that's what I intend to do. So I've got a lot of door knocking to do, a lot of meeting and greeting people. I intend to have hall meetings in the electorate and to have be open with the people, and they can come and speak to me, and to get to know all the issues in the electorate, why people are really concerned about. All right.
Just finally, how, like obviously you've said previously during the press conference that it's not a, you know, like Aaron was there, that you win the seat.
No.
Why do you keep trying? Because I mean you've tried a number of times since you got ousted from Parliament. Why do you keep coming back?
I think it's called being an Aussie fighter. I think it's being someone who's, you know, I don't consider myself a failure. A failure is someone who doesn't win the first time and walks away. I've kept going because I believe in what I'm doing. I'm passionate about my country, I'm passionate about these views. I don't see any other Australian standing up and expressing my concerns and how I feel about this country. If they did, they would have my full support, but I don't. So therefore, I haven't thrown the towel in. And if you thought that, well then go back to Gallipoli. The Australian soldiers fought on those beaches. They didn't turn and run the first shot that was fired at them. They didn't give up. And that's why we have our freedom today.